Who the hell are you?
You know. You all know exactly who I am. I'm the cook. I'm the man who killed Gus Fring. Now, say my name.
Heisenberg.
You're goddamn right.
The CINIKRADIO podcast.
Hi, I'm Chad L. Coleman, Tyrese from The Walking Dead, and Cuddy from The Wire, and you are listening to the CINIKRADIO podcast. Here are your hosts, Cinik.
Hey, the facts are Spider-Man belongs in the MCU. Sony was delusional thinking they didn't need Marvel, and now he's back. And we, the fans, are 100% proudly responsible for that.
Igrihe.
As long as DC wants to make dark and gritty movies, they're going to lag behind Marvel in every category.
And Ryan.
Batman vs. Superman is objectively better than Infinity War.
IG, did we just forget Kim?
You guys completely suck.
This is the greatest show of all time.
This is episode 125 of the CINIKRADIO podcast, and I'm your host, Cinik. And joining me, as always, my co-host, the zombie-slaying duo of Igrihe and Kim. It's been 10 long years, a failed attempt at a series, 4 Academy Award nominations, and 1 Oscar for the cast of Zombieland. Will the sequel be as widely popular as the movie? This week, we take a look at that, and we also talk a little bit about HBO's Watchmen Episode 1. Ig, I know you were a fan of the original movie. Were you excited for the sequel?
I'm very excited. Well, first of all, I love Woody Harrelson and pretty much everything he does. So pretty much if he's putting out a movie, I'm probably going to see it. There have been very few missteps and things that I've seen him in, even when he only has a bit part in things. I just think he eats up the screen. I love his acting. I love what he does. So that's the first big step. Secondly, I love the first Zombieland movie. So I'll watch a sequel going in knowing that most sequels don't reach what the original did. And I kind of went in expecting this to not be as good, just flat out. But it would still probably be a great popcorn movie, and that's all I cared about. Am I going to go there, have a good time, and go home happy?
Well, Kim, in the last 10 years, we've had a lot of zombie movies, zombie shows, video games, and zombie fun run. Do you think we've reached the point of zombie fatigue?
I think with super serious type of shows and movies and whatnot, that, yeah, we've, at least in my own opinion, I get kind of bored with it. Like, how many different directions can you take a Walking Dead person, like a zombie or whatever. But what I really like about the Zombieland series now, 1 and 2, is that it doesn't take itself too seriously. They can still poke fun at the whole construct of it, and it's still entertaining to watch, even though you already know what's going to happen, but it's a completely different spin on it, where you're not going to cry if somebody, gets cranial stomped, for first thing when the movie opens. So no, for me, I'm not too bored with it just yet.
Well, IG, the Zombieland cast has gone on to have basically do big things. I mean, they're 4 of the biggest actors in Hollywood at this point. Do you think that part of the delay in the last 10 years were just getting these really busy working actors in the same place at the same time?
That's entirely possible because they've all had big blockbuster things. They've all had highly critically acclaimed things coming out. I mean, every single one of them has had a lot of stuff going on in the last 10 years. And to just step aside to do a fun movie is kind of like what in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back is like. First you do the art movie, then you do the fun movie. So they are trying to get to the fun movie time because they've done a lot of real serious work. And the work that they've done outside of this is spectacular. I mean, a lot of good things, a lot of things that I can watch over and over again, but truth be told, I can watch Zombieland over and over again. I've seen it a number of times, and I'll probably watch this one a few more times as well. I liked it, and I just think that these characters, I'm glad they waited rather than just build it with some other people in the same type of universe. The best thing they could do is wait to have these 4 back together again, because I think it would have been an injustice to go away from them.
Well, and the fan base is still really rabid for this movie. I think they tried it on Amazon to make a show with different characters, but it's set in that world, and people just were not having it. They wanted the sequel. But IG, I mean, Double Tech a different approach to zombies in more of like classifications. They had the Homer, the Hawking, the Ninja. Did it feel a little bit of video game to you?
It did, but so did the first one. There was a lot of things in the first one that felt video game to me, and maybe that's why it resonates with me, because I'm a big gamer. I've been a big gamer like for a long time. So it really, really resonates. And I know I'm not alone, because gaming is a $1 billion industry now. They're making money hand over fist, and with a large adult crowd. I mean, kids are still into it, but adults more than ever are into gaming. And that's why things like this, when they build it like that, it's going to be attractive to an older audience, because, you know, we are the generation that just refuses to grow up. All we do is play video games, watch cartoons, and play music, and to drive around in cars. You know, we just want to be kids all the time.
That's fair.
I agree. I mean, Kim, we took the time to differentiate each type, like giving them characteristics, but they did very little with it. Do you think that was a vehicle just to hype how big and bad the T-800 bosses were?
I really kind of wish they would have dived into a little bit more, like how and why did that one classification of zombies end up morphing into such a badass that, you know, could take 10 bullets to the dome and still keep on trucking. I kind of needed some more information about that, but, you know, it's an hour and 37 minutes long. So, and again, it's not something that's supposed to be taken so seriously. So they don't really spend a whole lot of time on the backstory of it and whatnot. And it's, I think, primarily about the characters and the relationships that they build with each other. That's the important part of the story. And even though it's a zombie movie, it's not so much about the zombies.
What do you think, IG? Do you think we could have spent a little more time with the Homer or with the Hawking?
I think maybe for comedy's sake, yes. But not much more. I think if they'd have spent too much more time on it, we'd have been sitting here razzing it for playing off the same joke over and over again. I think they spent the right amount of time that just like every now and again a Homer would show up, and they'd all like see it coming, then be like, "Oh, stop, Homer. Never mind.
He's chasing butterflies. It's okay."
So it really worked better to have it just kind of be that way. Like, give us a blanket statement of this is kind of what it's like, and just let it live on its own. Let it be organic. So I think that they would have fallen into the trope that happens in all these other movies where they just find their one joke and beat it to death. And they didn't really do that here. So kudos to them for that. I mean, this is not the greatest movie, and it's not even close to the original Zombieland, but it's still pretty good.
We had these 3 different types, including the boss mob. But out of the Homer, the Hawking, and the Ninja, which one would you like to face off against the least?
Probably the Ninja, because you can't hear him sneaking up on you, and you can't hear him coming. At least with the rest of them, you kind of have a little bit of some warning.
I don't know, that Hawking, man, like that
was
one
pretty
scene
smart,
with the
biting
Hawking,
that eyeball
like,
out.
He made it work. He found his way through it. If they can complex problem solve, man, that's a problem. You know, because the Ninja is, as long as you put yourself in a room properly, if you barricade the doors and things properly, you know, you may be stuck in that room for a while, but it'll get bored and go chase someone else. The Hawking, nope, it's going to find a way into that room. So no, I think the Hawking for me.
In Double Tap, the White House was used as a base for the survivors. IG, if you had to pick out your very own zombie apocalypse sanctuary, where would it be?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Initially, maybe like a Sam's Club or a Costco or something, just for the
that's what I was thinking.
Food and like a lot of them have pharmacies in them, so if you need medication, you've got all that. Not a lot of windows and stuff, so not a lot of stuff to have to protect. But then I guess later I'd want something with some comfort, and apparently the power grid is still working because they've got other things going. So I don't know, maybe like some big apartment building where I could just knock off the bottom few floors, block all that off, and just be up, you know, Trump Tower, you know, because then I'd make sure and do things in whatever his private suite is just to be dirty once in a while. But I don't know. That's a really good question. I think the White House is a really good option, or maybe I'd go the way of Fear the Walking Dead and find a baseball stadium. That's got a lot of room and stuff too. Clubhouses, things like that.
I was going to say Costco Club, but I'm a little ticked that he stole my idea.
Nice.
So if I obviously couldn't take over a Costco, I guess I'd have to go somewhere that had at least some ammunition and possibly a high sight advantage, maybe like a military base or something like that, where they used to do testing or something. Like we have Camp Landing down the street from here, so there's lots of towers and stuff like that. I feel like I could probably be safe there.
Area 51. Here we go.
Yeah, military bases wouldn't be that bad. As far as civilians go, I would think a Costco or a Sam's might be a pretty good idea. If the three of us are all thinking on the same wavelength, other survivors are probably going to come knocking at your door too. And unfortunately, like some of the places that we named or will go over, they're going to have walls and barbed wire and defenses. You're really going to have a hard time protecting a Sam's. So it's just too many ways in. IG, I know you're not the world's biggest Daryl Dixon fan, but you do ride a bike. The group's ride was the presidential limo, the Beast, an armored car with a turret on top. Could they have done more with it? I would have loved to see them mow things down.
Right. If that's the vehicle you have at your disposal, like that thing is designed to literally take missile attacks and everything else and survive and keep going. Like they should have really like leaned into that some and done some of their whole zombie kill of the week type montages with that thing, because it would have just been ultimately cool, because the thing is literally a tank that just looks like a limo or a big SUV. Like, come on. They mounted more stuff to it to make it even more badass, and then they just let it go and just didn't do much with it. And that's so disappointing because...
Well, they smoked a lot of reefer in it.
Oh, they did that, but I like seeing them paint a 3 on stuff and then go just beat the shit out of things with it. And they had the 3 on it, but then they let her take it and run off, and then she shot one zombie, and then all of a sudden they didn't have anything. It was such a missed opportunity. So many things they could have done with that.
Visually, it really was a badass looking ride. I would have chose it as my vehicle, and then you throw the gun turn on it. It's something from a video game. And I get that they spent a lot of time in that movie knocking the fourth wall down and kind of letting us in on the gag that it is a movie with, the subtitles popping up and jumping back to Zombie Kill of the Year. And I get that, but I think that they really should have done more with it. Speaking of Zombie Kill of the Year, Kim, I mean, it was a hot debate from farm machinery to dropping the Leaning Tower of Pisa on some walkers. If I was going to give you a weapon in any scenario, how would you undo the undead?
I mean, he literally used a pallet jack or whatever to drop the Leaning Tower of Pisa onto some zombies, and that was pretty badass. I'm not sure if I could top that.
Who thinks of these fucking things anyway,
right?
Man? It's so ingenious, some of these zombie kills that they've come up with in this series, that it's so hard to come up with stuff. I mean, the only thing I can think of is like putting like a time bomb on a Homer and sending it into the crowd of them, and letting him like gather them all together. Like, it'd be even better. Like the way you get them is you trap the time bomb on the Homer and then put a Chihuahua on the Homer so that the other walkers will chase the Homer around.
Like a fishing pole stick thing.
Because you got to get the other walkers and zombies interested. So you need something real, because they're not going to just chase the Homer. You need them to chase something, and then the Homer runs around with the Chihuahua, gathers them all up, and boom. That's all I can think of, like just this quick and thinking of something, but I think that would be hilarious.
I mean, I could always go wood chipper style like in Deadpool.
Yeah, I didn't understand. I always thought that about The Walking Dead. Like, if they just put something at like neck level, the average neck level for a zombie, if you get a horde coming in, they're going to push each one through, and it's just going to take them off at the head. I always thought that would be a neat way to do things there. I also felt like the whole zombie apocalypse could be undone by the second floor. If you stood up on the second floor with a spear, you could just go all day, and they could never get at you. There'd be no way for them to get up, and you just stab down and just kill to your heart's content.
That's not fun for movies, though. It's not interesting to watch.
It would be a little tedious to watch, but it definitely would be effective. The girls bail. Wichita and Little Rock bail on the guys and leave with just a note. In a situation like this, Kim, where there's safety in numbers and, we have ninja zombies running around, are you almost stuck with the group that you're with?
But, the red flags have always been there. They were kind of flaky in the first movie. And that was like the only thing about this movie that I really didn't like was I felt like they kind of recycled the old script. They just changed locations and some of the dialogue. Like, okay, in the first movie, you didn't know each other. But what if, okay, stick with me here. You did know each other this time, and they're still going to leave you. You know, so that, again, very predictable for this particular movie. But yes, strength in numbers, y'all should stick together and stop venturing off. They could have, you know, voluntarily all gone together as like a family, you know, and went to wherever they wanted to go, because it seemed like they were all sort of on the same page, just in different directions, I guess.
IG in Double Tap, we get to meet Madison. She's painfully unintelligent. Other than the obvious sexual reasons, would you be able to entertain her company for more than one day?
Yeah. Well, you know, the thing is if I'm left alone just with Tallahassee for too long, and I'm Columbus, pretty soon I'm going to need a Madison around, just because I need something just mindless around, because, you know, there's no more Netflix and chill. There's no, I mean, maybe you've got a DVD collection you can watch, but you need something that you can just watch the stupidity reign for a while and then hopefully walk away from it. But I think after about day 3, I'm going to feed her to a ninja, or try and get a homer to get her and see which one wins. Like it's going to be the battle royale where I put her up against a homer. If she can live, she can stay for another day.
She wasn't brainless. She thought of Lyft and Uber.
There's just so many things wrong with her, and she's so dopey that, yeah, I don't know. I think that, you know, sexual reasons at that point, you know, you have to think about survival, and it really seems like it's going to be a problem later.
That would be my issue, too. I mean, back in the day, there was a very old Twilight Zone where Burgess Meredith loved to read, and everybody was gone, and he could read every book that he owned, except his glasses broke. And that would be me, too, because as much as I love to talk and conversate, that the only person I'd be left in the world with is somebody mindless that you can't talk to, and they're just kind of staring at you blankly every time you say something. You would just get bored and resort to teasing them or putting them in perilous situations just for fun. I don't know if I could be able to stand her company for more than a day or two. You have to have at least a little bit of an IQ. Kim, Columbus's rules are featured throughout the movie. Which one of them speaks to you the most?
I think that his rule on number 1 cardio is very, very smart, because it reminds me, I should probably get my ass up and do something with myself. But also double tap, especially when you're dealing with something like, you know, the T800. It's an evolving climate, and I think that one probably is the most important one to pay attention to. You can't just shoot once and then assume that, you know, a zombie is dead. You got to make sure that it's gone. So I'd probably say that one.
IG, the plot of the movie basically becomes the search for Little Rock and her stupid hippie boyfriend. Was there enough meat on the bones for them to actually do a sequel? I mean, did the story keep you enthralled?
It kept me entertained. I don't know about enthralled, not as much as the first movie, but it kept me entertained. And I had a good time watching it. This is just a popcorn movie, and not everything has to be deep and thoughtful and have all kinds of stuff going on to keep me entertained. Like, to have me engrossed, you got to have more going on. But I'm fine sometimes with just something that's entertaining. And in fact, sometimes I probably prefer something that's just entertaining. And as bad as Little Rock is, I don't like her character in this. Like, I like Abigail Breslin. She's fine. She's a good actress. I don't like the character of Little Rock, but put her out with Berkeley, and then all of a sudden she's great, because Berkeley is such a terrible person. Like, he's a pacifist. What? How are you going to get a pacifist to survive the zombie apocalypse?
And that many all in one place.
Yeah. Oh my God. But like, where do you, like, they shouldn't be able to just be out roaming around where you'd run into a pacifist. And she did. And then he somehow is so enthralled with Little Rock that, like, the fact that she's like using the turret on top to blow up zombies as they drive down the road in the presidential motorcade. And he doesn't just dump her off on the side of the road and say, I can't be with you, you're too violent. No, he's into her. So it kind of embraced that character and made it more intriguing to me that, you know, she could kind of live her life. Because, you know, if we remember, in the first one, she was very young. So she's at that age where she's going to want more. And she's probably thinks she knows everything, because I've got a couple of them that live in my house that think they know everything.
Not including the Homer, the T-800 was near indestructible, the Hawking was smart, the Ninja was stealth, like I said before. Kim, if we're years into this, realistically, if the zombies had this characteristic and outnumbered the people so much, would anybody survive?
It'd be hard-pressed to say. I mean, you got to figure they've been out in this environment for this long. At what point did not only did their available fresh rations kind of dry up, even in Babylon, you don't even see fresh food and stuff like that being grown. They used melted metal from the guns in order to make fake flowers on, top of the tower. I just don't think that it would last that long, especially at the rate that the zombies seem to be multiplying. It's fiction, it's fake, but whatever.
I agree, but I don't like how they just brushed off logistically like, oh, well, it keeps raining, the dams keep making power, and everything is fine. Everything else in the world is destroyed, but for some reason they're able to get from DC to Tennessee without any problems. I want a little bit of realism. Like, we can't just shrug off all common sense and reality.
I mean, even gasoline goes bad. I mean, it's been years. Like, where are they getting good gasoline from?
Where did they find a Dodge Caravan minivan or Plymouth mini? Where did they find one in such good shape?
I know I audibly sighed, IG, but did I hear one from you that we spent 15 minutes of screen time trying to scavenge an RV only to have them drive exactly 5 feet before shredding the tires and then just getting out and walking away? What was the point in all that?
Right. And I know it was like, hey, look, we have this thing and we can drive and be in comfort and style and paint a 3 on it because that's what he does. And do they not know how to look and see those signs on the road that say severe tire damage? Don't go this way anymore. Like, I know
it was covered with vines.
Yeah, but the sign should have still been there. And the road, like you walked in there. You had to notice something when you're going in. I mean, the trick to survival in any of these situations is to be observant. And this seems like they weren't paying attention to anything. They were just so excited that they saw an RV. And why would you spend all that much time going down there? You don't know if it's got fuel. You don't know if you're going to be able to get it out of there. Nope, we're just going to go down and do this anyway. Yeah, I sighed real hard because I'm like, ugh. I mean, I thought it was the one redeeming part of that was putting them back in the minivan because, watching Tallahassee have to get in the minivan every time was hilarious.
Kim, we got appearances from Rosario Dawson, Bill Murray, Luke Wilson, Thomas Middleditch. What was your favorite?
I love Rosario Dawson. I just adore her and pretty much everything that she does. So I was really excited to see her because I think she's like a great badass. I just like her a lot. So I was really happy to see that. I'm always thrilled to death to see Bill Murray, of course, but that was kind of to be expected whenever you go to see this particular movie because he made such a huge appearance and passing in the first movie. So yeah, I would have to say Rosario Dawson.
Me, it was the Albuquerque and Flagstaff that were just like him. Like, it was so hilarious, that whole setup thing when they are basically the carbon copy of Tallahassee and Columbus. I was cracking up through that whole part.
Luke Wilson annoys the crap out of me. His face is just so punchable. I don't like him at all.
Nice.
Sorry.
So that's the picture on your mirror when you're training and you just reach out and grab it and crumple up Luke Wilson's picture.
Boo.
Well, IG, you brought that up and that was going to be my next point. Do you think that we could have kept them around for a little while longer, though? Maybe had them help in the last fight? They were kind of compelling, interesting doppelgangers.
Actually, I think it would have been even better to have them around about a third less of the time.
Wow.
I think that the quick hit and watch them be carbon copies and then have them turn and kill them even faster would have maybe done a little bit better for this movie. I think it drug a little bit when they were just kind of hanging around a little bit, when they were still hanging out there with Nevada. And I don't know. I think it got to the point where it was dragging with them in those scenes, because I think that it ended up being kind of one of those like Family Guy gags where they go off to something completely off topic just to eat time.
Yeah.
And it was cool for the first about 5 minutes. And then it was like, this needs to be done. We need to get this story moving, because they were literally sitting there at the Elvis Museum just eating time for no reason. And so I think it just drug a little bit. I liked right at the beginning when it was like so funny and everything, and then it just drug.
Kim, Babylon, a community based on free love, no weapons, just high walls and fireworks, and a few acoustic guitars. Realistically, would this place stood long enough for our heroes to even reach there?
No. Look what's ran by. There was no practicality there at all. There wasn't even food. I don't even know how they were surviving unless it was just some sort of a hippie communion ground. I don't know. No, I don't think that it would be able to stand. I don't even know who would be running maintenance there. It doesn't seem like they would be allowed to have any tools or anything like that. So, hippies, God. Okay. Go on.
Zombie gets, you're not a big fan of the hippies?
No.
No, not so much.
No offense to any hippies out there, but you're not my cup of tea, and that's fine.
IG, in the end, our heroes were outnumbered, but tricked the zombies into a free fall off a building, and they teased Tallahassee's death and even a nutshot. Your thoughts on the final sequence, the movie, and your rating?
You know, it was a pretty cool and ingenious zombie kill, but it took entirely too long to set up to get there. They could have come up with something a little bit better for that. But that being said, it did work. And it could work given the right set of things setting it up. So why not? In general, I think this movie was fun. It was a good time. I ate popcorn, laughed a bit, had a good time, got enthralled with these characters all over again. But there's nothing special about it. The first Zombieland was a very special movie. It got you entertained and engrossed in the characters all at the same time. You felt like there was an absolute possibility that somebody may not make it out of that and that he may not get his Twinkie. There was no Twinkie in this one. There wasn't anything like that. And it was just not as heartwarming or heartfelt of a movie. It was fun. And if that's all they're looking for, then great. You made it, and I really did enjoy it. But, you set the bar so high, it's hard to go over that bar again. So while I probably give the first one a 9, I'm probably going to give this one a 7. It was still fun, and I'll watch it again. But it wasn't great.
First of all, in the first movie, his love affair was with the Twinkie, and in this one, it's with Rosario Dawson's character. So, there's that. I don't think I would even rate it that high, and I love these movies. I'd probably give it a solid 6 and be real content with calling it a day on that one. Yeah, it's one of those movies where I love all of these characters. I think that they individually played their roles really well. The story was predictable, but that's to be expected when you have a movie that's not supposed to be taking itself so seriously. And I think it was nice and kind of refreshing to see them having fun, considering all of the movies that we've seen so far this year pretty much have been very serious, and kind of dark. And so seeing something that was a little bit more lighthearted, even though it's about a grim topic, I think is nice. So I'd say it's a 6. I'm definitely going to buy it when it comes out for download, and I will definitely watch it again. But I also kind of enjoyed the fact that when I went to the theater, there was only like 6 of us in there. So I'm okay with that.
I absolutely adored the first movie. It's probably in my top 20. But the final sequence was unbelievable and unrealistic and completely took me out of the movie. I enjoyed all the cameos, and the cast was amazing. They're great actors. I love them. They're funny. But the story was super weak. And I felt like it was just to do a movie to say we did one. It had zero direction. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. And I feel like if this is your best effort, maybe a sequel's not necessary for every single film. I probably won't watch this movie again, and I wouldn't suggest anybody go to the theater and see it. All right, let's spend a little bit of time talking about a show that we were all excited for, and that would be HBO's The Watchmen. But rather than do our traditional review, we're going to do a love, like, hate about the show. So, IG, I want to start out with you. What did you love about the show?
What I love about the show is the casting. The cast that they put in this show, bar none, is one of the greatest casts that they've started with on any show on HBO thus far. Tim Blake Nelson's one of my favorite actors of all time. I think he's amazing. All the way from No Country for Old Men to right now, he's Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? To right now, I think he's great. He can play a goofy cornball to a very serious actor to like trailer trash. He's all over the place, and I love him. Don Johnson's in this, who's had a great resurgence in his career. Another great actor. Regina King is top notch, and then we get Lou Gossett Jr., Jeremy Irons. So many great actors in this movie, and so I really love the casting. I think that's just a great place to start. If you can get a strong cast, you can get something going.
How about you, Kim? What'd you love about the movie?
I think what I really liked about it was they kind of took their time with it, and it was Alan Moore declined multiple scripts about this because he said the original content of I think it was back in 2009 is when the original movie came out, but it didn't need a prequel. It didn't need a sequel. It was fine the way it was. Just leave it how it is. And so if they were going to do this particular storyline with these characters, that it needed to be new content, I guess, in like a different adaptation, different kind of content. It couldn't be the same thing. It had to be something completely unique and something that would continue to capture an audience's attention, which I think they did wonderfully.
What I loved about it is I felt that the music was done great because Trent Reznor did it, but it had its own unique feel. Much like Zombieland, they created a universe separate from our own. It's a different reality, and I like that. And I also love the fact that it's on HBO, so we have an unlimited budget for action, violence, and sex. And it's a superhero show, which I can't get enough of. IG, what'd you like about it?
Well, I like the music because I'm like you. I like Trent Reznor. But what I really liked was the world that they built. The world that they built, like it kind of resonated off of what the movie said, where they've got people that stay in office for a long time and things that built in, like apparently now that it rains baby squids all over the place, that they have sirens going off telling you the rain is coming. These little things of world building really kind of get you into what's going on. Now, they haven't explained enough of that yet, so that's why I don't love it. But that stuff I'm sure will come, and maybe my love, like, hate things will change based on later episodes in this season. Because I like what they're doing, I like where they're going, but I don't know what it's leading to yet, and that's almost going to come up in my next section.
How about you, Kim? What did you like about it?
I really like the way that they kind of snuck in all of the little details. I love superhero movies and seeing little Easter eggs kind of being dropped all over the place. In one part of the show, they kind of pay homage to Rorschach and Dollar Bill and Comedian and all of that, which are going to come up later in the show as it goes on. And also there was a scene where she was explaining separating of eggs in a bowl to a classroom full of kids. And there's like a little flash, like a memory, I guess, perhaps that she had, where you see like a sand building collapsing and you see the blue guy. Oh, Jesus.
Dr. Manhattan.
Manhattan, thank you. You see him very, very small, but it's one of those things where if you aren't familiar with this world of DC and this alternate planet Earth, then you really wouldn't pay much attention to it. So it was kind of nice to be able to see something like that and go, oh, okay, I know what the connection is here. So I really like that.
What I liked about it was they made an impact right off the bat featuring the Tulsa riots, which I had been in the dark about up until I've seen this show. So that riveted me right off the bat. But also I like the fact that the show seems to lean more towards the comics than it did the movie, because I think the comics were a better story. IG, lastly, what did you hate about it?
So far, what I hate about it is the actual lack of Watchmen, right? An actual lack of a formed group of quote unquote superheroes doing something. What I remember, like, first of all, in the comics, the Watchmen, there were more of them together, like Night Owl and stuff. They were around. They weren't always together, but they were around, and you got things going on with them. And so far, we know where Adrian is, and whatever role Regina's playing. I don't remember the name of the character, sister something. And we're not really getting anything else. We're getting mentions of Rorschach, but no Rorschach. And it's really just kind of making me go, all right, we're going to have a superhero show with no superheroes. We need to, amp this up a little bit, speed up. But truth be told, that's something that's probably going to change as we get further into the season as well, because HBO knows what they've got here is something that they're trying to replace Game of Thrones. They need something that they can go 8 seasons with, 8 to 10 episodes a season. So they need to long burn this instead of do it all at the beginning, because if they do it all now, then there's nothing to do later. So right now, I hate that, I don't know what's happening or where anything is going, and it's very confusing. But it's some of the things that I kind of love/hate about Westworld as well. So this could actually end up becoming something that I'm really into. But as of right now, I'm kind of going, come on, give me something. I'm intrigued by the show, and I sit and I watch it without blinking pretty much for an hour. But that's because I'm trying to hope to get something from it.
I think the one thing I really kind of disliked, I don't want to say hate, but the one thing that I really disliked about this was the flow of the storyline. If you're not already familiar with previous movie or the Dark comics or whatever, you're going to be lost when you're watching this because you have no idea what the hell is happening. It starts off back in the 40s, I believe. And then the next thing you know, Louis Gossett Jr. is in a wheelchair poking fun at somebody walking into a bakery. That may make sense to somebody that saw a movie and can kind of go, oh, right, so this is what's going to happen or whatever. But the fluidity from where it used to be to now isn't there. I understand that they wanted to, use new content, but you can change up a storyline without making it kind of jump around so much. I feel like maybe the Tulsa riot thing is something that could have been better explained as perhaps a flashback later down the road once we had a little bit more character building. But that's just my opinion.
What I hated about it was the sheer lack of explanation with anything. Why the cops were wearing masks, why the superheroes were hunted, why the squid monster was flying around dumping squid on people. If you hadn't read the comic books, which I read them a long time ago, if you hadn't seen the movie, you had no idea what was going on. And I didn't like that. And people's attention spans are so small that if you're having a premiere episode, yes, you have to make an impact. But at the same time, you can't just leave people with questions. At some point, you have to answer them. I was also a little bothered by the fact that Don Johnson died in the first episode. He's an interesting actor, and I really enjoy the stuff that he's in. To me, that left a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth, but it didn't outweigh the good things about the show. IG, what was your rating for the first episode, and will you continue watching the series?
So for the first episode, probably 6.5. But I know that as far as episodes go on HBO, most of them start a little on the slow end. They like to build. And so that being said, I'll go through this season. And if they don't build something significant by the end of the season, then I'll probably be done. But generally with an HBO show, by the end of the first season, I'm awaiting the second one. That's been true of just about everything they've done. So I'm hoping that is more than true on this one. But first episode, not as impressed as I would hope to be, knowing what Watchmen is and what it has the potential to do. But I believe that HBO has the right team in place to build it. So I'm just saying first episode 6.5, but we can get further, and I think it will.
So I'm actually going to have to go a little bit lower. Normally I'm pretty lenient with these kind of things, but I'm going to have to give it like a 5. I think that the cast is great. I also was a little bit bummed out about Don Johnson, Chief Judd. More importantly, if I can't sit there and I can't follow it, or if it's not something, especially superheroes, if I can't sit there and watch it with my nieces who are awesome at keeping up with, character storylines and whatnot, and we're all just kind of scratching our heads, it's really not something that's there for us to, I'm having to think too much, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at. And I love, anything comic related, especially Marvel and DC. I just found it frustrating and confusing and trying to piece together all of these tidbits of storylines in my head from something that came out a decade ago and comics that came out 3 decades ago. And so, it was just a little bit irritating for me. So I'm going to have to go with a 5.
My rating for it would probably be a 6 or a 7. I thought it was a very good opening episode. I think there's a lot to build on there. I think the acting is great. I think the choice of cast is great. I think the feel of the universe looks very good. It's very unique. I think they're even going to bring in Robert Redford as president, as their version of Ronald Reagan. All that stuff sounds kind of intriguing. The fact that it's superhero based, I love. Will I continue to watch it? Yeah, I'll probably give them a good full season. If it's not what I expected to be after the first season, then I'll probably knock off on it. But I did like the comics. I did like the movie. So I'm going to give the TV show a fair shot.
And that's it. You made it to the end of another episode of the Cinik Radio podcast. I'm Igrihe, here with Cinik, who you can find at CINIKRADIO.com. Also, we had Ryan, who you can find at thejimwits.com. And Kim, who you can find at KMCArtworks.com. Great artists. Go check out some really cool stuff. We'll be back next week with some new stuff for you. Probably some news as well. Send your crazy news stories, any comments, questions, and concerns to us at CINIKRadio@gmail.com. Find us on the internet at CINIKRadio.com. Look for us on Facebook at Facebook.com/CINIKRadio. Find us on Twitter at CINIKRadio. And find us on Instagram at Cinik Radio. You can also head over to tpublic.com, search for Cinik, CINIK, and get your own Cinik Radio podcast gear. T-shirts, mugs, cups, stickers, all the cool Cinik Radio podcast stuff you could possibly want. It'd help the show, and we would greatly appreciate it. Thanks again for all the love and support. Keep listening, sharing it with your friends, like, listen, and subscribe. And until next time, don't get captured.
Follow the podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and at CINIKRadio.com. Available for download on iTunes.